It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Tuesday. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Lots to get into. Big show. Man, oh man, it has been a rough couple of days for Israel First, for the Trump government. Serves you right. You trusted the plan. Ouch. Our featured story tonight, we're going to be talking all about Trump's Fox News interview. You see this? The clips came out yesterday. I think the whole thing aired today. Brutal. Just brutal. The hits keep coming. And I'm feeling very good about my decision not to vote. If you watched the interview, you saw the president defend not just the doubling of the number of foreign Chinese students coming to America from roughly 300,000 to 600,000. He said the reason we need them here is so that we can have HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. We can't kick out all the Chinese students. What would happen to the black colleges then? I don't know. Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Then it got better. New clip came out today. He defends the H-1B visa program. It's basically a giant scam to steal jobs from American workers because it's cheaper and more advantageous to hire foreigners, mostly from India. The interviewer pushed back. Laura Ingraham said, but what about Americans? Trump said they don't have skills. There are no talented Americans. They don't have the skills we need. We need the Indians. So, for all those, and by the way, let me just say this at the beginning. There are no surprises here. Nobody has a right to be surprised. You do not have that right. You forfeited that because Trump said all of this and more a year ago. He said all of this and more in June 2024, in August 2024. He basically said this in February 2025. Trump has been saying this for well over a year during the election, during this administration. He is no longer America First on anything. Not on foreign policy when he bombs Iran. Not on immigration policy when they refuse to carry out mass deportations. And not on labor policy, which is, of course, related to immigration when he says that we're going to bring in hundreds of thousands of Chinese students, hundreds of thousands of Indian tech workers. He changed his position. He switched up. And it's been like this, and I told you so. I warned you. I've been telling you. Trump said it himself a year ago. But the reason that maybe you didn't know that, the reason maybe you were not alarmed by this development, people might be saying to themselves, well, why didn't anybody tell me? Or why didn't anybody make a stink about it? I will tell you why. Because when Trump was saying these things last year, there was a cadre, there was a group of Twitter influencers like Jack Posobiec and Raw Egg Nationalist and Lomez and all these guys from Claremont, all these guys that are now at the Blaze, all these people at Dime Square, all these pro-Vance people. They're all on the payroll, I imagine, of some super PAC or the campaign or something like that. And they were being paid to tell you that none of that was a big deal. They were being paid to tell you those are throwaway comments. Those things that he's saying do not matter. He doesn't mean them. Excuse me. Well, here we are. We're a year in, and the position is unchanged, and the labor policy is terrible. So We'll talk all about these remarks. It's absolutely an unmitigated disaster. When does the carnage end? And think about in sequence, just in the past week. So Republicans get destroyed in the off-year election by a Democrat socialist and Democrats in Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, because of affordability. What is the Republican messaging? Well, from the Israel lobby, they're not even talking about it. They're crying about an interview with Tucker Carlson. Then when they got around to talking about it, they said, if you can't afford a home, get lost. Maybe you don't deserve to live here. Oh, you're broke and can't afford a house? The median age of homeowners is 61? Well, go somewhere else. We hate you. Then Trump introduced a 50-year mortgage where you'll basically be renting from the bank for 30 years before you start getting equity. That was the second thing that happened. Then Trump said, talking about affordability is a scam. The economy is fine. If you think it isn't, you're wrong. And now this. We need 600,000 Chinese students. But what about American students? Well, we need to keep the colleges in business, and specifically the historically black ones. What about H-1Bs? Well, we need the talent. What about Americans? Americans have no talent. It's over. It's over. This year, 2025, let's just be real. Unmitigated disaster. Unmitigated disaster, total catastrophe, epic disappointment. And where do you begin? We'll talk about all of it tonight. That'll be our main story. We're also going to talk tonight about our 2 new military bases in the Middle East. Hey, it's okay. Maybe you're disappointed about you're still being replaced by Indians and Chinese people. Your kids are being replaced in college by the Chinese, and then if you're lucky enough to get into college and graduate, they're being replaced in the workplace by Indians. It's very sad. Here's the good news. We're opening a new military base in Gaza for 10,000 U.S. soldiers and a new military base in Damascus in Syria so we could stay there forever and monitor Syria's peace agreement with Israel, which is forthcoming. So it's not all bad. We have to look at the glass half full. You're disappointed about the economy sucks. The good news is we're still at war forever for Israel. But don't say anything about it or you'll lose your job. So we'll talk about all of it. Should be a pretty good show. Before we get into it, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash the like button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show. Check out our merch store. We have our Wang Half t-shirt. Let them know you're a white ass nigga going hard as fuck. Me on the back. Bestseller. This is our #1 bestseller on the store. Fuentes.store. Get the hats in time for Christmas. No promises. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be honest. I don't know that you get them in time for Christmas. But buy them now and you'll get them like within a reasonable amount of time. You can put a picture of it in your kid's stocking. We had to buy it in crypto. Fuentes.store. Get your premium membership at americafirst.plus. A plus subscription is $15 a month. Get access to the whole archive. $100 a month, you get to be in a group chat with me. I'm actually in there, chopping it up, leaving voice messages all the time. I left one this afternoon. And I'm giving you all the inside baseball about everything. Ask me anything. I'm hanging out. Some guy today drops me a line. He tags me. He's like, hey, Nick, next time a Protestant asks you about no salvation outside the church, just don't say anything. I said, why don't you go get a life? I said, why don't you don't tell me what to do? So I can't promise you I'm going to be nice to you, but I will talk to you. I'm obligated to talk to you. I won't be nice. I won't necessarily be nice. I'll try. So check that out. $100 a month club, but regular stuff too. AmericaFirst.plus. We're going to dive in. We're going to get into the show. News is slowing down a little bit. It's been a pretty slow week, minus the Tucker interview. Government shutdown looks like it will be over by tomorrow or Thursday. And everything else is pretty quiet. Carrier Strike Group has entered the U.S. Southern Command area of operation. Might be looking at war in Venezuela on the horizon. Could be any day now. Situation in Lebanon is escalating, so we might cover some of these things later in the week, but right now it's pretty mellow. It's very cold in Chicago. We had a major blizzard the other day. We got snow, but I like it. This is when I'm at my most powerful. Generational run, you thought maybe it might be winding down, but this is when I get more powerful. I feed off the actual literal darkness and the cold. This is when I'm in my element. I like the winter. I like when the sun sets early. I like all of the nighttime. I like the cold weather. It feels good. Summer was brutal this year. Too hot, too humid, too bright, too sunny. I would go outside at like 8:45 p.m. and it's still light out and it's still 100 degrees. I'm like, I want to kill myself. How can anybody live like this? How can you people live like this? I'm sweating all the time. Even the tap water is warm. You notice that? Like, it was so hot this summer, you put on the cold tap water and the water was warm. I'm like, this is inhumane. So it's past time. Holiday season is upon us. Very excited for that. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to dive into the show. I'm just stalling a little bit because there's not a ton to talk about. We're going to get into it. Our featured story, it's all about this Trump interview. And man, guys, this is not good. I guess we'll just cut right to the chase. We'll get into these remarks. I'll read them to you. This is really bad. And I guess I would start by saying this. I want everybody to take a moment here and try to remember what you felt like when Trump won the election exactly a year ago. So Trump won the election, November 5th last year? So it's about a year and a week ago. And do you remember the exuberance of that night? The hype? How excited everybody was. Trump wins in a landslide. He wins the popular vote. And it wasn't just that he won. Remember the sentiment. The sentiment was, it will be different this time. They said, it will be different this time. Golden age. It's going to be a golden age. A truly golden age. You're going back. You're going back, they said. You have 50 days until all illegals will be deported. Remember this? They said, we're going to cut the deficit by $2 trillion. Remember Elon Musk was in the White House? Yeah, you forgot. It got memory hold. Remember Doge? Department of Government Efficiency, like the meme coin? We're going to cut $2 trillion from the deficit. We're going to deport millions of people. We're going to eliminate the Department of Education. We're going to build the wall. We're going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Remember? Everybody thought it was going to be Trump and Vivek and Elon and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. dancing to Staying Alive while they shrank the government and, introduced the golden age and everything would be great. Remember this? Those are the vibes coming in to the election. You might recall I did not vote. I did not vote at all. I didn't tell people to vote for Kamala. I didn't vote for Kamala. I didn't vote for Trump either. I told people to recuse themselves. Why? Because I anticipated every single thing that happened this year. I told you exactly how it was going to go and why. And when I started to notice this was roughly around May during the election last year, when Nikki Haley went to Israel on Trump's behalf, dropped out of the primary, which was ongoing, and endorsed him. And then Miriam Adelson promised to cut him a check for $100 million. That's when I knew something was up. Because Trump did not secure Haley's exit from the race and endorsement and the commitment from Miriam Adelson without some sort of quid pro quo, without a deal. He cut another deal. And then about a month later in June, Trump was on the All In podcast with David Sachs after he visited his house in San Francisco for a fundraiser where Silicon Valley poured millions into his campaign. That was another red flag. And during that all-in appearance on the podcast, he said we were going to staple green cards to diplomas, the age-old policy that never seems to die. They promised they're going to give permanent residency to every foreign student that graduates from any degree program in the United States. Horrible open borders, America last policy. It was those two things, but there were others too. Those were the first major things that made me say, you know what? This is not going to be different. It's going to be exactly like the first term. They're going to make all the same mistakes, the same personnel mistakes. They don't have a plan. They're not organized. They're selling out. I knew it then. And so I told people, look, you're not going to get mass deportations. You're not going to get America First immigration policy. You're going to get a war with Iran. They're not going to be able to end this war in Ukraine. Like, none of the things they're promising are actually going to come true. And people told me I was a Democrat. Brutal. People said, you're a Democrat infiltrator. They said I was working for Kamala. They said I took a deal to get out of prosecution for January 6th. And the deal was that, you know, if the FBI didn't charge me, that I would help the Democrats win the election. Like, that's what they were saying about me. Because I predicted everything correctly. You know, fast forward to the election, people said, oh man, plan trusters are in control. We win. It's going to be different this time. And then one thing after the other. First, they pick a cabinet of all neocons. Matt Gaetz drops out of Congress, isn't the attorney general. We get Rubio for state. We get Ratcliffe at the CIA. We get Waltz at the National Security Council. He's working for Israel. Then on Christmas, Trump isn't even inaugurated, and on Christmas, we have a full-fledged meltdown from Vivek and Elon saying, if you don't like H-1B visas, you're a racist, and we're going to kick you out of the Republican Party, and you're a cancer, and you're scum. I was on Christmas. And it went on and on and on like this. The failure to carry out the mass deportations, the multiple visits from Israel, bombing Iran, the burying of the Epstein files, the carve-outs for farm workers, the corporate tax, one thing after the next. This is where I want to start. Let's recap how we got here. We came into this second term with high hopes. And again, the excitement, the hype, the promises, and the central idea was it will be different this time, they said. Trump will finish the job. He's going to actually put America first. All you have to do is vote one more time. Ignore the haters, ignore the skeptics. Just vote one more time. It's going to be awesome. Well, here we are. And we have this interview from Laura Ingraham. She's at Fox News. She interviews Trump. This is a week after the first major election since the Trump victory. This is the off-year election. The governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia, mayoral election in New York City. First major test. How's Trump doing? It's a blowout for the Democrats. Democratic Socialist becomes mayor of New York City. Republicans do about 10 points worse in New Jersey, lose by double digits in Virginia. Even in Virginia, a statewide official wins after text messages come out where he's talking about killing Republicans. He somehow wins too. It's a bloodbath. It's, no pun intended, it's brutal. And why do Democrats win? They win in part because of the shutdown in Virginia, Northern Virginia, where people are affected because they work for the government or government contractors, but also because the vibes are off. People have a feeling that things are not going well, in particular with the economy. Prices remain high. Homeowners insurance remains high. Healthcare insurance is very high. Health insurance, I should say, is very high. And although inflation is stabilized, it's still a little high. Interest rates are still high, and the prices have not come down. At the same time, the job market's very bad. And so Americans are getting squeezed. There's a lot of signs that the economy is okay. It's chugging along, but there's also a lot of reasons to be worried. There's a lot of credit card debt. It seems that Americans are basically insolvent. Wealth is down. Everybody's feeling it. Everybody's feeling these cumulative effects of the inflation of the past 5 years, as well as the interest rates. It's been tough. So here we are a week after this blowout election. Republicans are losing because the economy sucks. And Trump comes out in the interview and he defends. He's given an opportunity. This is like a layup. This is a softball. Laura Ingraham serves it up. She says, so what do you think actually about the Chinese students? Which at one point it was said Trump was going to ban Chinese students from coming here altogether. All Chinese students would be barred from entering the country, and that was part of the trade war. That sounded good. And Trump did a 180. He said, actually, we're going to bring twice as many Chinese students in. Then he said, well, no, that's not what we meant. So Laura Ingraham asked him to clarify. This is what happened. This is from Fox News. It says, quote, President Trump on Monday defended his administration's plan to offer 600,000 visas to Chinese students. Laura Ingraham pressed him during an interview, questioning how the proposal was MAGA if it crowded out spots, excuse me, if it crowded out spots for American students and whether universities were getting rich from Chinese money. Trump argued that foreign students are actually vital to keeping U.S. universities financially stable. He said, quote, we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have, China and other countries. We have a massive system of colleges and universities, and if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States, they would go out of business, he said. He said, I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world, not with the French, though, he said. Laura Ingraham said, but the Chinese, they spy on us. They steal our intellectual property. Trump said, you think the French are better? Ingraham said, yeah, obviously. Trump said, I'm not so sure, citing French tariffs. He said, it's not that I want them, but I view it as a business. One thing you don't want is to cut half of the people, half of the students from all over the world and destroy our entire university and college system. I don't want to do that. The remarks mark a reversal from earlier this year when the Trump administration said it would aggressively revoke Chinese student visas amid espionage concerns. In August, Trump changed course and announced plans to expand the program dramatically. More than 277,000 Chinese students studied in the United States last year, according to the Institute of International Education. Now it's going to be 600,000. Okay? Pay attention to what Trump says here. He says, first of all, he says, I could cut the number of Chinese students in half and make some people happy, he said. But think of the universities. Then what would happen? That's one. Two, he said, I look at it as a business. It's a business. It's all about money. We need the Chinese money. So when Trump says that cutting the number of Chinese students would make some people happy, who do you think those people are? Exactly. It's his voters. When Trump says, well, you know, I could cut the number of Chinese students coming into America, I suppose that would make some people happy. He's referring to his voters who voted for him to do this. Your voters, the forgotten men and women of America, voted for you to do that, to put American students, their children, or themselves, ahead of the universities, which are run by our enemies, by the way. Academia is run by the left. Academia is run by liberals. Democrats, they do not support Trump or his government or Republicans. Universities are notorious for this. And Chinese students. So Trump says, well, I guess I could make you happy by doing what I promised. I guess I could make my voters happy by doing what I promised to do. But think about all the money. Think about the Chinese students and think about all the money that would go to the universities. I don't know. I think that it would actually be a good thing if we had fewer colleges and universities. If colleges and universities cannot exist without foreign money, then they shouldn't. Isn't that a simple and basic principle? We have too many colleges. We have too many college graduates. It's devaluing a college diploma. And by the way, the job market is frozen. You have a very high percentage of Americans with a a college diploma, a college degree, but a much smaller percentage of them that actually have a job in the field that they got an education in. So if you have all these universities and all these students graduating and entering a very tight job market, if they can't exist without that arrangement, which is America Last, let them go out of business. Let them go out of business. Or better yet, let them economize. Maybe instead of spending all this money on state-of-the-art amenities and sports facilities and recreational facilities, I don't know, maybe you need to cut those things. Maybe you need to eliminate some of the programs there. But the whole point, that's beside the point. The whole point of electing Trump in the first place is that you're supposed to put Americans and their concerns first. And it goes without saying, if a Chinese student goes to Harvard or Yale, that is one less spot for an American. There are only so many spaces at elite schools. There's only so many seats there at elite public and private schools on the East Coast to West Coast, everywhere in between. Research universities, liberal arts universities, there's only so many spots. And if there are 600,000 Chinese students coming here, those are 600,000 seats that don't go to Americans. And I understand that maybe it's flexible, give or take 100 or 1,000 in a particular university. But if you're doubling the amount of Chinese students, if we're talking about 500,000 in a given year, there are Americans who won't be going to college this year because a Chinese student is. And the reason that we elected Trump in the first place in 2016 was to reverse those priorities and say, what about those American students actually? What about American human capital? What about Americans that have talents? America has a huge pool of highly skilled labor, or I should say human capital with a high IQ who are able to be educated, able to be trained, able to work in skilled fields. America has one of the highest in terms of the index of human capital. We rank among the highest out of all the countries in the world. Surely we have the talent. Surely we have the people. What about those kids? Isn't that the whole point? Isn't why their parents voted for Trump? Isn't that why they voted for Trump? So, they would have the opportunity to go to college. And then, by the way, let's not forget where this leads. The whole point of going to the most selective college is so that you can be the most competitive in the job market. And at a time where entry-level positions in the best fields are scarce, at a time when the labor market is very tight, there's not a lot of firing, but there's also not a lot of hiring going on. People are looking for any way to get a leg up. And so if you're taking away those seats at colleges for students, you're also really taking away a very good livelihood for them too. It's not just that Chinese students are coming here to study, they're coming here to work. They're coming here to get a degree, and then they're going to get in the optional training program, and then they're going to get a job straight out of college. You're going to get one of the better jobs. You're going to get a STEM job. That's a job that could have then gone to an American. That's a lifetime. The whole American dream is you study hard, your parents pay high property taxes to send you to a good public high school where there aren't gang wars and black people getting in fights so that you can go to a good college. They pay for an SAT tutor. They pay for extracurriculars so you can get into a good college. You're supposed to then go to college, pay an arm and a leg for a good degree, and then you get a leg up and you get to enter into the workforce as a professional, get a nice white-collar job with a high salary, with good benefits, and then you get to get married. You get a big enough job in a competitive field, in a high-paying field. You're able to buy a home, get a wife, start a family. That's the deal. And that's how somebody goes from working class or lower middle class to upper middle class. Or you get to be rich. That's the deal. That's the program. That's what it means to be America First, is to think of those people in Iowa, those people in Kansas, those people in South Dakota, wherever, and in California, New York too. But it's thinking about Americans going to college, to get jobs, to start families, to own homes, to lead good lives, to actually have prosperity in the American dream. That's the whole point. And Trump says, yeah, well, I could put them first. I guess that would make them happy. But what about the colleges? The colleges would go out of business. Yeah, so what? I don't even think that's true. That's hyperbole. That's totally overstating it. Half the colleges would not go out of business. I don't know that any college would go out of business. They just have to change their business model. Maybe they'd make it more affordable. And by the way, if the colleges go bankrupt, then just have the government bail them out. God knows the government can bail out Ukraine. The government can bail out Israel. The government can bail out Argentina. The government can bail out the banks. But you're telling me, who is going to foot the bill for the universities? American students. You can't go to college because a rich Chinese oligarch's kid has to keep the universities afloat, because otherwise the colleges will go out of business. I don't even have a problem with that. But if that's what you're saying, why can't we just bail them out? Once again, Americans always drawing the short end of the stick. Every single time. The special interests are never allowed to draw the short end of the stick. If Argentina's in trouble, if Israel's in trouble, if Ukraine's in trouble, if Silicon Valley's in trouble, if the banks and Wall Street are in trouble, here comes the government to bail you out. Not a problem. Oh, the universities might fail if we let Americans go there? Oh, well, too bad. I guess you're not going to college this year. We have to bring in the Chinese to pay for our stuff. Really? This is the kind of thinking which is why we voted for Trump in the first place. And now it's business as usual. And by the way, this is actually worse than Biden. Like, think about it. When Joe Biden was president, he tried to eliminate student loan debt. That helped Americans. He said, here's a wild idea. Let's just wipe the slate clean, and let's have all those students that took on student loan debt, let's take the debt away. Let's just forgive it. Let's have the taxpayers pay for it. And conservatives flipped out. They said, you can't do that. That's not constitutional. And, I sort of agree with the constitutional argument. It was overreach. But they disagreed with it in principle. They said, the taxpayer can't bail you out because you made a bad decision. I think Ben Shapiro literally said that. Ben Shapiro said, if you made the decision to take on student loan debt, the taxpayer can't bail you out. Really? So when Israel starts a war with Iran, then we have to bail them out? Again, it's like Americans always drawing the short end of the stick. It gets to the point where literally Democrats, as dumb as they are, and I'm not a socialist. I don't support a lot of these policies. But in terms of the mindset behind it, the administration under the Democrats said, we're going to help Americans. You have student loan debt. It's a high payment. Maybe you're paying it off 10 years after you graduated. It's forgiven. Republicans get in and they say, we're going to double the number of Chinese students. Really? So Who are you really working for here? That's the first thing that he said. Then the second thing that he said, it gets better. He was asked about H-1B visas. H-1B visas come from the 1990 Immigration Act, and everybody knows this is a scam. H-1B was intended, or at least nominally they said, ostensibly, the goal of H-1B was to fill jobs that require specialized skills that firms could not find Americans to fill those jobs. What it has become is effectively just cheap foreign labor. It's indentured servitude. They bring in an Indian, they have an American train the Indian, then they fire the American, they hire the Indian works for half the wage, and the Indian can't go and work anywhere else because they rely on the employer to remain in America. So it's like they're indentured to the employer, they're cheaper, there's less regulations. That's what it has become. It's basically become a subsidy for Silicon Valley in particular, but big firms in general, and we're underwriting their labor cost, replacing Americans with Indians. This is what Trump had to say about this. Laura Ingraham asks him, H-1B visa, will that be a big priority for you? If you want to raise wages for Americans, you can't flood the country with hundreds of thousands of foreign workers. Trump replies, you have to bring in the talent. She says, well, we have plenty of talented people here. Trump said, no, you don't. No, you don't have talented Americans. He says, you don't have certain talents. People have to learn. You can't take people off the unemployment line and say, go make missiles. Laura Ingraham says, how did we do it before? Trump said, I'll give you an example. In Georgia, we raided Hyundai for illegal immigrants. They had people from South Korea. They had 500 to 600 people, early stages to make batteries, to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted to kick them out of the country. You need them. You can't bring in $10 billion for a plant, take people off the unemployment line, and start making missiles. It doesn't work that way. So that being a non sequitur aside, once again, this is just the next stage. So first they take the seats at the advanced universities from Americans, then they take the best jobs, then they take the best STEM jobs. No, you can't go to college, that's for the Chinese. No, you can't get a tech job, that's for the Indians, that's for the South Koreans. That's for Asians and immigrants from other countries. Americans can't do those jobs. Really? So hey, what jobs can we do? Americans apparently can't go to universities. And Americans also, they won't do the low-skilled jobs that the Mexicans do. They also won't do the high-skilled jobs that the Asians can do. They refuse to do the low-skilled jobs that the dumb peasants from Central America do because they're lazy and they just can't work with their hands. And they're not able to do the high-skilled jobs that the Asians do because they're stupid. You can't take them out of the unemployment line and teach them to make missiles. And by the way, both of these things are not true. Of course you can do that. Of course you can. When ICE raided a meatpacking plant in, I think it was Kansas, and they rounded up all the illegals and detained them, the following day, there was a line going around the building. The entire lobby of the meatpacking plant was filled, and there was a line wrapped around the building of people applying for jobs. Of course, Americans will do the jobs. You got to train them. It costs money, and it takes time. You got to train them up, but of course they'll do those jobs. And as far as the STEM jobs go, you probably have about 40% of college graduates 18 to 40 that have a STEM degree. How many of them are working in a STEM field? I think it's like 15%. So it's not just that you have unemployment, you have underemployment. You have maybe half of the people that have STEM jobs that are not, that have STEM degrees, they're not working in STEM jobs. Of course you can train them to make missiles. Instead of having Americans train H-1B visa workers to take their job, have the H-1B visa workers train Americans to take their job. It's a no-brainer. Of course you can do. And this is what's missing in the government that we thought we were getting from Trump. And by the way, this actually goes towards the whole thing about Joseph Stalin. Why do I like Stalin in some ways? Super controversial, I know. Because if you read anything about the industrialization of the Soviet Union, it's incredible. These communists, as horrible and barbaric as they were, they would get on trains and they would go to factories and they would literally build factories from nothing. The actual politicians would do it. The actual politicians, they didn't know how to do anything, but they bootstrapped it. They got on trains, they went out there, and they just made towns that made tanks and planes. And they stole the secrets from the United States, and they just did it. And it was super inefficient and criminal, and they used slave labor to do it. Like, I'm not co-signing the methods, but there was this spirit. There was a spirit there. There was a spirit in Germany also. There was also a spirit like this in America. It was a different time where people just said, we will do it. And we thought we were getting that with Trump. That's, by the way, what Make America Great Again means. The whole idea of Make America Great Again is this idea that the country is stuck. The country can't do anything. The government has no efficacy. The government can't solve problems, and neither can the private sector. It seems like our country is dying, and basically people are unable to stop it. People are either apathetic and they don't care, or people are inept and they're not competent enough. And it seems like the whole country's falling off the cliff and no one is able to even do anything. And we're looking at these energetic countries with tons of young people, whether it's in the Middle East or it's in Asia. We look at cities like Dubai. We look at cities like Singapore. We look at Beijing, Hong Kong. And people say, why can't we build things like they're building in China? Why can't, in China, they build bridges, they build things. We can't build anything. In Dubai, they build like world wonders and it's peaceful. In Chicago and New York, it's a shithole. It's dirty. There's crime everywhere. It smells like weed. You can't build anything. And the whole idea of Trump getting into office is that we would get the energy back. We would get this initiative back. That's what Make America Great Again meant. And yes, the aesthetics of MAGA had in it, you know, I'm not a socialist, but this idea of like heavy industry, like factories making stuff. Like Americans would be drafted not to go and fight in the Middle East, but literally drafted to build shit in America. You're going to get a job, you're going to work, and we're literally going to make things. We're going to make our country great. We're going to build skyscrapers, bridges, infrastructure. We're going to work with our hands. We're going to have factories. We're going to be a productive nation that builds the future. That was the whole premise. And Americans would do it. It was that Americans would do the building, not Chinese, not Indians, not foreign labor, not outsourcing. American labor, American builders, buying American, hiring American, American ingenuity and entrepreneurship and innovation and labor and companies would literally create our future. That was the idea of MAGA. And that's inspiring. The idea that everybody would be drafted behind a common vision that we can all get behind, which is greatness, which we had, but which we have lost. This kind of momentum and initiative that we had, but we lost. We're an aging country. We're slowing down. We're in the twilight or the autumn of our time period as an empire and as a civilization. And people said, people would come forward from the Midwest, from flyover country, from the heartland, and they would go forward to DC to work in government, and they'd be part of this transformation. The factories would return and people would go to the factories and they would build things. They'd make cars. They would make airports. They would make bridges. We would build new cities, literally, and have kids and build houses. Like, yeah, we can do it. That was the idea. We can do it. And now here we are 10 years later, and the message is the opposite. You can't do it. We're not talented. We don't have the talent because you can't. We need immigrants. We need Venezuelans to do Uber. We need Salvadorians to pick the grapes. We need Indians to do our programming. We need Koreans to build our missiles. Like now we're getting the opposite. Trump 2016 was like, I don't care. We're going to win. We're going to take the country and make it great and nothing will stop us. We're going to cut the red tape, ignore the media. We're not going to take donor money and we're just going to fucking do it. Like that was the idea. And now, here we are 10 years later, and the message is like, we can't do anything. Politics is too difficult. It's political reality. I could send all the Chinese and illegal farmers home, and I guess that would make some people happy, but what are you going to do? Let the colleges go out of business? We don't have any talent here. We need Indians to do our jobs for us. And that it's less so the policy, because look, people are realistic. People know Rome wasn't built in a day. We want to build Rome in like 20 years, but it wasn't built in a day. Okay. But what is really crushing after 10 years is the message. And it's like Trump is getting old. His movement is getting old. America's getting old. And it feels like as Trump loses energy, as he has been defeated in a way, it feels like the movement is being defeated. The movement that he built is just, it's out of ideas. It's out of steam. We tried it. We thought we could do it. We can't. We gave it one last try, one last push. Make America great again. Let's do it. Never mind. Everyone go home. We actually do need the Indians. We lost. We were wrong. The elites were right. We're worthless. We need Chinese money. We need Indian programmers. That's the sense of dread. And this is why I said a year ago, it really is about the vibes. I said this a year ago. Trump is old. He's tired. He's not funny. He's low energy. He's monotonous. I said, and his movement is dead. Like his movement is not dynamic. His movement has been captured. Look at who's at Mar-a-Lago. It's all grifters. When Trump started, it was all true believers. When Trump started, it was like him and like a dozen people with a dream. And they were bootstrapping it. They were just doing these rallies, flying by the seat of their pants. And they're like, can we win? I don't know. We're going to try. And all the careerists and all of the parasite political class, they hated Trump. Now they're all in Mar-a-Lago. Now Mar-a-Lago is just the king's court, and it's all ass kissers and brown nosers and grifters and shills and the worst people imaginable. His endorsements have become a business. Access to him, photos with him have become a business. Like all of the shills from 15 are now on the inside. All the people that hated MAGA are now the biggest MAGA supporters. Trump has been fully assimilated. He has fully been compromised by the GOP. And there's nothing risky, nothing edgy. There's no entrepreneurial spirit. Look what happened to Elon Musk. Elon Musk came in. He was maybe the last push because he's a little younger and he bought Twitter and, you know, he's the Rocket Man and everything like that. Elon came in with Doge. He got chewed up and spit out in 3 months. Elon was a little bit of energy. Like, you know, he was kind of like a little shock therapy for MAGA. And he lasted 3 months. He said, we're going to come in and we're going to bring in all these young guys and we're just going to move fast and break things. We could just do things. Remember, that was just, we could just do things. We're going to cut $1 trillion from the deficit. He got chewed up and spit out in 3 months. And now look at where we are. Nothing that has been promised has come to fruition. Can we end the wars? No. Trump wants to go back to Afghanistan. We're bombing Iran. We're building a base in Gaza. Mass deportations, Trump says, not so fast. We actually need all the people. We need the illegal farm workers. We need the illegal hospitality workers. We need the illegal construction workers. We're going to shut down H-1Bs, foreign students. Not so fast. We need all those Asians to fund our universities and do all the jobs that Americans are too retarded to do. Cut the deficit, forget about it. Epstein files, they don't exist. Can't afford a home? Well, get lost. Here we are a year in, your golden age. And it was rotten from the start because the donors got involved. And you have to understand that these things go hand in hand. When Trump started, he was not surrounded by the money. When Trump started, he funded his primary campaign with like $70 million. And it was just him and a small staff, and he was on Twitter, and that was it. And that's why it was energetic. That's why it was daring and risk-taking and exciting. And what happened really right after he won the election the first time in 17 and 18 is that all of the interests surrounded him, the money, the shills, the personnel, the bureaucrats. And the second that happened, they poisoned the well. And suddenly it became cautious and conventional and boring and safe. And suddenly it became about everyone getting a handout. Suddenly it became about patronage. Everybody getting their back scratched. Everybody getting taken care of under the table. Israel lobby, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, the corporate tax cuts, moving the embassy. It became about everything other than the people. These things go hand in hand. And this is what I said last year. Like all of these ideas that we talk about on the show, about personnel, about the Israel lobby, about the Trump campaign, about why things aren't happening quickly or at all these things are deeply related. If the Heritage Foundation is controlled by Israel lobbyists, if the Republican Party is controlled by the Israel lobby and the interests, if they're policing the young people in the speech, if they're working for the donors and the rich, then you're never going to get the good policy. You're never going to get your American revival. They're fucking killing our country. Every time the president of the United States says we have to take care of the universities before the young people, we have to take care of Hyundai and the South Koreans before we train up our own workforce, they're killing our country. They're murdering our country in order to satisfy all the special interests and give the political kickbacks. We're literally murdering our country. And the whole idea behind Trumpism is that we could transcend the petty politics, the wheeling and dealing, the quid pro quo, the money power. The idea was if we could transcend that, if we could have the people elect one leader, and if he wasn't beholden to the interests, he could get in, hire the right people, and just fix it. And everybody'd be unhappy. The media'd be pissed. Everybody'd be pissed. There'd be pain and economic pain and maybe chaos. But with a firm hand and with consistency and with leadership that we could actually revive the country. We would have to break the back of all these self-perpetuating systems that have gotten us to this point. That was the whole idea. That's what made it interesting and exciting and worth supporting. And the second that it backslid into everything that came before, that's when I jumped off. That's when I said, I'm out. But all the idiots stuck around because, a lot of them, they just caught on way too late. A lot of people got red-pilled in like 2021. A lot of the people that voted for Trump in 24, they became conservative after the pandemic. They weren't there for the first time. And so their support for Trump is just like a generic conservatism. It's like a generic reaction to the excesses of the left. And so they weren't there for that magical campaign. They weren't there for that populist moment. And that's why they were sold a bunch of crap by propagandists on Twitter who were telling them it's going to be a never-ending Creed concert. We're going to be drinking Code Red Mountain Dew and playing Xbox, and it's going to be the golden age. Vivek Ramaswamy and Tulsi Gabbard are going to put America first or whatever. Like they were just not prepared for that. And now here we are. I was right. I told you so. This is not MAGA. There is nothing MAGA about any of this. This is not America first. None of this is putting Americans first. Every promise has been broken. There are no real victories. Trump has not delivered. It has been one disappointment after another, and that is because of corruption. That is because the Trump regime, just like every other regime, has been corrupted by money. That's the bottom line. You have been disappointed. You fell for it again. You believed them when they made a promise, which they never intended to keep. They said things to you to get your vote, knowing full well that once they got it, they were going to work for the donors. That's who pays for the cabinet appointments and the ambassadorships. That's who captures the bureaucracy. And that is why the system is sclerotic. That is why the system is slow and broken and unanswerable to the people and not even thinking about the people. And you're almost better off with Biden than with this. This is just like criminal stuff. And I'm not saying I'm at 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't care. But all Trump seems to have done, he's just as bad as the Democrats. The only difference is Trump has given people a false sense of victory. Trump has lulled people into complacency. Everybody thought the people triumphed when Trump won. He's different. He's talking like the rest of us. That's what is particularly sinister about the Trump movement, is the way that it functioned as a Trojan horse. Biden was worse. Kamala would have been worse. But at least with Kamala, nobody would be under any illusions. Would Kamala be better? No, she would have been far worse. The economy would be worse. Immigration would be worse. It all would be worse. But here's what matters, and here's the difference. Nobody would be under any illusions about what it is. That it's illegitimate. The elections are fake. The government's corrupt. She's not really in charge. The system hates us. There'd be no love lost there. And everybody would be acutely aware of the problem. You'd have righteous indignation. You'd have anger. There'd be a revolutionary fervor. But instead, with Trump, you get the pressure release valve. And no matter what he says or what he does, 50% of his audience, he has this diehard base of supporters. They'll support it no matter what. If he bombs Iran, they'll support it. If he brings in 500,000 Chinese students, they'll say he doesn't really mean it. If he fails to deport people, they'll say, well, who cares? The border's secure, so what? That's the problem. And so this is when you start to begin to think politically and start to think about what our real end game is. My end game is not to elect Republicans and be marginally better than the Democrats. No, my end game is I do want an energetic president. I want an energetic, forward-thinking, progressive, disruptive, populist executive branch that is going to break the back of the power in the country and put Americans first. No more kickbacks, no more deals, no more corruption, no more special interests, no more super PACs. We literally need a real leader that is actually popular and in control with agency, someone smart, to get in, fire everybody, bring in his own people, and literally make the trains run on time. Literally build the new cities, raise the skyscrapers from the ground, build the factories, put us on a war footing, make the country great again. That's all I'm interested in. If it's not that, I don't want it. So don't tell me the next best thing is this. The next best thing is we're going to elect Trump and he's going to make another joke about how you say Buttigieg's name. We're going to elect Trump and, hey, man, it's better than the Democrats. I don't care. They're murdering our country. On what timeline? Are we going to murder the country in 10 years or 5 years? You're still murdering the country. Trump promised to be that leader. He's not. It's time to move on. Now, you can vote Republican. I don't care. But if you are not dedicating yourself as a young person to getting yourself ready for that truly revolutionary moment, then you're just not engaging in politics. That's why I tell people, get ready. Get ready for the moment when that revolutionary leader appears and says, we need factory workers. We need workshops. Someone needs to make the missiles. Someone needs to make the tanks, the cars. Someone needs to make the steel that will build the buildings. That's why I tell people, go to college, get skills, get jobs, be a human Swiss Army knife. Be a spy, be a soldier. Because when that revolutionary government comes to power, we want to go to DC and rule. And for those that can't do that, we want you to be able to go and start a workshop and make the country different. We need energy. We need productivity. We need to build. We need to expand. It's not about electing some Republican government so they could overturn the civil rights law and DEI or whatever. Like, who cares? As long as they're bringing in millions of Asians every year, as long as everything stays the same. So that's the essence of the disappointment. And this is where Israel First and Trump are going down together. They're going down holding hands because they're inextricably connected. Israel First, Ben Shapiro, and tired, low-energy Trump, they're both going down the tubes together. This is a movement that is no longer talking to Americans, doesn't care about Americans, doesn't put Americans first. And it's finished. When Trump goes out and says, well, I could cut the number of Chinese students in half and maybe that'd make people happy, but I'm not going to. You're not talking to Americans anymore. You forgot Americans. You're putting them last again. You're not fighting for them, but you're still answering to Mark Levin and Shapiro. Well, you can have them. This movement is over. And now the question is, what comes next? Trumpism is over. I hate to inform you, this administration is done. Stick a fork in it, it's fucking over. We played this game. It's deja vu. I was there for the first term, and I remember right up until 2020, I was saying, okay, we could still make a difference. I remember in spring 2020, I was coping. Trust me when I tell you, it's over. We're out of time, okay? Because it's Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving in 2 weeks. It's Christmas a month after that. Then it's the midterms. You think they're going to do mass deportations and federal control of Chicago during the midterms? You think Putin's going to end the war during the midterms? They're not. Okay? We're going to get slaughtered in the midterms. Democrats are going to control the House, and then they're going to shut the White House down. Things are going to get worse, not better. This administration, Trump is getting worse. He's 80 years old. The people are terrible. Kristi Noem is a fucking idiot, and she's running DHS. It's not going to happen. And then in 2027, the whole cabinet is going to run for president. Congratulations, Trump. You filled up your cabinet with people that don't care about America. They just want to be president. And in 2027, 2 months after the midterms, half the cabinet is going to announce their run for the presidency. J.D. Vance, Vice President. Mark Rubio, Secretary of State. Kristi Noem, Secretary of DHS. Maybe RFK Jr., HHS. You think they're going to be able to make America great again when half the cabinet is running for president and Democrats control Congress and they're impeaching Trump? Never going to happen. It's over. And I told you it would happen like this exactly. I said, no mass deportations, H-1Bs. You're getting a war with Iran. I said, they're not going to bring in the right personnel. They're going to stall. They're not going to hit the ground running because they have no plan. They're disorganized. They're going to blow a whole year. And if they do that, then you don't have as much time as you think. They'll run out the clock. It will happen as I said, and then it'll be 2028 before you know it. And it has come to pass. This is your golden age. All you plan trusters coping and seething, you. All you people, John Doyle, Patrick Casey, Jack Posobiec, Zero HP Lovecraft, Bronze Age pervert, all you fucking Jews and stupid true goyim that told us that's a throwaway remark. Don't trust the plan doubters and the disloyal. Hey, patriot, we're trusting the plan. F you. You were wrong and you have ruined the country as a result. I told you exactly what would happen. It was obvious for anyone with eyes to see, but you're so stupid you didn't see it. And now we're f***ed. Now the movement is dead. This administration is finished. It's over. And now the question is, what happens next? This is why I say, and I tell Alex Jones, every time I get on Alex Jones' show, he's like, so what are we going to do? We're still rooting for Trump, right? We got to tell him. I'm like, tell him what? Tell him what? Don't fuck over American workers? I think he knows what he's doing. You know, he's not listening to us on Twitter, bro. And we played this game in the first term. We're 10 years in. And you still have these people, I hate to say it, but they're just like in denial. And they're like, okay, everybody, let's all go on Twitter and let's tell Trump, don't screw over your voters. Okay. Hey, Trump, don't hire John Ratcliffe in the CIA. Like, what are we doing? We lost. It's over. The time to make demands was during the election when he needed the votes. He's a lame duck president. He doesn't need anything from us. He's not even on Twitter. He's on Truth Social. So what are you talking about? We're going to all rally and tell him, don't hire yet another neocon? Forget it. We tried that. I'm not playing that game anymore. Trump sold us out. He is the problem. He's cooked. And you know what? Look, I'm not saying damn him to hell. I think he's a net positive. His movement was necessary, but it was never the end all be all. He's a patriot. God bless him. But here's the point. He was never the end all be all. He was always a John the Baptist. He was always a prefigurement of what will come in the future. But people forgot that along the way. They thought we really were playing for like Heritage America and like whatever. Trump was a stepping stone towards America First, white identity, towards a true nationalism, true revanchism. He was always a stepping stone. He did his part. God bless him. He created me. He created so much of this, but he was never the end all be all. He's on his way out. We just need to be realistic about it and not in denial and not coping and not having these delusions that, you know, we have to wrest control over the shit from Trump using our Twitter accounts. It ain't going to happen. This is why I say the real battle is 2028. This administration's done. We got to get ready for 28 because that's the all-important battle. Who's going to win? Is it going to be Vance? Is it going to be Rubio? Or maybe it'll be somebody else. But we need to understand in 28 exactly what happened in 24. Here's a question. Do you think Vance will be any different? Do you think that J.D. Vance, who is a nobody, you think he'll be any different? Trump was this Herculean outsider. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime figure. Rich, billionaire, tough, brash. Changed the game forever with the force of his personality and charisma and perseverance. Like, let's not understate the magnitude of what Trump did in 2016 and what he even did in the past 10 years. And that's Trump. Who the fuck is J.D. Vance? Seriously, he's some dork talking about his Meemaw because he sucked Peter Thiel's dick for 10 years, because he got millions of dollars from Thiel and basically brown-nosed his way to the top, because he flattered the idiot Don Jr. Because why? You think Vance is going to be any different? Trump couldn't make America great again, but Vance can. Trump as unconventional, as dynamic, as earth-shattering as his victory was, he couldn't do it, but Vance can, with all of his experience doing what? Writing press releases for the Marines? All his experience doing what? Book talks at the Aspen Institute about hillbilly elegy? His experience doing what exactly? Giving speeches that suck? Written for him by his ghostwriters from the Teal crew? I mean, seriously, you think Vance will be any different? He'll be the same or worse because he doesn't have it. He's another dork like DeSantis. If Trump couldn't do it, Vance definitely couldn't do it. It'll be worse. This is why I say we got to understand what we're playing for in 28. We're not playing to get screwed again. We're not going to fall for it again. This is why I want you to be demoralized. No, this administration's never going to work out. There's no plan. What do? There's nothing we can do. You already did the voting. You know? None of the talk shows want to tell you that because it's all about keeping everybody on the hamster wheel. So I'm going to be brutally honest. I want to demoralize you. It's over. There's nothing you can do for this administration. This administration's done. You'd be better off just expressing your discontent because at least maybe then they'll throw us a bone out of embarrassment, out of desperation. The only thing you could do is say, fuck this government. It's over. But trust me when I tell you, nothing good is going to come out of this in the next few years. This is cooked. Here's the upside. Here's the Hail Mary. Here's the silver lining. You're not going to change the administration by tweeting. You're not going to convince Trump to do the right thing if Jack Posobiec puts out a hashtag. But what we can do is get ready for 28. Get ready to go to Iowa. Put yourself in a position politically, financially, get involved in politics. You've got 3 years, okay? The 2028 election is in 3 years. If you're in high school, going into college, get involved in college Republicans. Get involved in your young Republicans, local Republican chapter. Get involved in a campaign. Where do you see yourself in 3 years? You want to be ready. You want to be ready in 2 years to get on a primary campaign, to get to Iowa caucus, New Hampshire primary. You want to get ready if our guy wins the primary and the general to work in the administration. If you're in college already, join up with college Republicans. Get involved in a campaign. If you're just some regular guy, volunteer for a campaign. Get your money up. Put yourself in a position maybe where you're comfortable. You got a couple of years to get your money up, couple of years to network a little bit. And come 2027, I want to see you guys in Iowa. I want to see you guys in New Hampshire. I want to see you in Nevada and South Carolina. I want to see you on Super Tuesday. You got 2 years, okay? Make it count. Iowa caucus is January, February 2028. You got 2 whole years to get yourself situated. I'm not going to tell you, hey, everybody, if we all just say, please, Trump, like, that's over. We're not doing that. Climb the ladder. Get on the ladder. Start climbing. Get ready in 2 years. We're going to fight. If we don't get our way, get ready for 2032. This is never over. We're never giving up. We're never going to stop. People say, well, isn't it going to be too late? It's not over until we say it's over, okay? That's the game. You know, look at Pat Buchanan. He ran in 1992. He didn't see his vision realized until 2016. 24 years later. Are you ready to go until 2040? Are you ready to go until 2050? You need to be. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes. Generational. And don't get me wrong, it'd be better if we could fix it sooner rather than later. But this is how we have to look at it. We have to want it more than they do. We have to show up. You know, who has the discipline to do this for 50 years? Who has the discipline? Who wants it bad enough? And when I say to do this for 50 years, I don't mean go and vote every 2 years. I mean, Who for 50 years has the dedication to say, I'm going to get to work every day to become rich. I'm going to get to work every day to become powerful. I'm going to get to work every day to become politically influential. In spite of every setback, doxing, personal stuff, whatever, I'm literally going to make the personal and the political one. That is who the future belongs to. Whatever the demographic composition of the country, whatever happens, that is how the future will be determined. So, I mean, what Trump did in 2016, it's inspirational. But we have to move beyond the nostalgia and realize that it's on its way out. And now we need a new big idea. We need a new leader, new big idea, new movement. We got to get ready for it so we're better equipped for the next time around. You know, this time, like I said, this was like a big bang event. It created so much stuff, but it was sloppy. It was disorganized. There were some personality flaws. They weren't able to do the job. We got to be ready for the next go around. So anyway, that's that. I want to move on. We're going to take a look at we're out of time. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll cover the Gaza thing tomorrow, maybe. We'll take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this. But yeah, major disappointment. Just be honest with yourselves. Serves you right. You trusted the plan. Man, I hate being right all the time. Sometimes I wish I wasn't right. Do you remember all those complete idiots who were telling me, trust the plan. It's going to be different. It's going to be a golden age. We're going to elect Trump. And I had friends of mine. They're like, you're being disloyal to Trump. It's like, you don't know Trump. You know me. I am your leader. Not Trump. You literally know me in person. Trump doesn't know who you are, homeboy. Trump don't even know who you are. This misplaced sense of loyalty. And he gives a shit about you. Give me a break. People got to get it straight here. So, yeah, hate to see it. They were wrong. I was right. And and by the way, a lot of people say, they go, oh, all you care about is being right and you're blackpilling. Look, I'm not blackpilling. This is a reality. Blackpill is to say, give up. Blackpill is to say it's not going well. And if Trump can't do it, no one can do it. It's actually the blackpill is to say Trump is the end all be all. Because Trump is not. And if Trump fails, then yeah. If Trump is your end all be all and it doesn't work out, then yeah, you're depressed. But I'm the opposite. I'm saying, no, the movement will go on. And it has to reinvent itself. That's quite the contrary. I'm saying, look, this administration's a failure. Let's just be honest about what it is so we can get ready for the next fight. We fight through thick and thin. I fought throughout the Biden administration. I was banned from everything. I mean, think about the shit that I went through for years. Do you think I could have imagined in my wildest dreams it would have wound up like it did for me? When I was 18 years old with 100 live viewers and Cassie Dillon told me I'd never work in politics. When Ben Shapiro canceled me and I was broke, knew nobody, had no followers. I had 2,000 followers on Twitter. Do you think I could have, and think about how different the conversation was back then. You think in my wildest dreams I could imagine that in 8 years I'd be friends with Ye, who made a song called Hail Hitler, and I would be destroying Ben Shapiro's career, and I'd be interviewed by Tucker, and I'd be mainstreaming criticism of Israel and viral on Instagram, and the high schools love me. Do you think I could have imagined that when I took the first step? And if I told you, even if I could have, if I told you that, would anyone believe me? Or would I have been laughed at? That was 8 years ago. So it's all just about taking that first step. That's the fight. Taking the first step and one step after another on good days and bad days. You'll have bad years. You'll have many bad years in a row. Can you keep taking step by step? Can you take it a day at a time? Do you have that irrational belief in our cause, in yourself? Are you so dedicated that you cannot see yourself doing anything else, even if it is a lost cause? Would you be anywhere else, fighting for anything else? That's what it takes. Because if you're just some guy that wants a job at ISI, if you're just some who wants to hang out with AFD guys and go to ISI dinners and suck RFK Jr.'s cock, and you believe Tucker's the end-all be-all, yeah, you, pal. Yeah, you. You're not going to make it. You don't have what it takes. So, anyway. That's the vision. I'm not blackpilling. I just know the movement's going to go beyond Trump. It has to. If it doesn't, it is over. So anyway, we're going to move on. We'll take a look at the super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this.
Damn. One thing that we will say is that Trump, I don't know if this is the art of the deal, but, you know, when we think about the worst attributes of a salesperson and prejudices of a salesperson, Trump is showing us just that. I have my notes here, but probably won't need much of them for this one. Trump sold us on something. And it reminds me, actually, when Nick was talking about earlier in the show, I believe, or somewhere in the middle, when he was talking about how Trump, they promised us if we just vote for Trump one more time, he'll be able to actually, you know, move forward with finishing draining the swamp. You know, the first time he was in office, he had to get used to it, couldn't really do so much. Things go fast. But this second time, he doesn't have to worry about getting reelected. He could just do exactly what he's telling us he's going to do. This reminds me of Barack Obama's second term, where everybody was, well, Barack Obama, you know, he couldn't do much in the first term, even though the first term, I believe, was actually the term where they had the most control. I'm not really totally sure on that, so y'all have to double check. I'll double check on that as well. But this is the same type of response same type of energy that was given to Barack. He doesn't have to worry about reelection. He can just, you know, do exactly what he wants. And that's us losing sight of what politics is. See, when it comes to the Republican Party, it's not just about Trump. It's not just about, oh, while Trump's in office, they want J.D. Vance to follow up for 8 years, maybe Rubio after that for 8. It's about the control that they want to keep. So therefore, Donald Trump, I mean, if not that we needed another example to show that Donald Trump is not willing to do the things that he actually campaigned on, but perhaps the most glaring example of this is his interview with Laura Ingraham, when he is asked about the H-1B issue, the visas. Donald Trump responds and says that there's not enough talented Americans to where we have to go and get Indians and Chinese people, students, workers, to help the colleges. And Nick brought up a great point. When it comes to the colleges, it's funny how he'll prioritize the well-being of the business of the college, right? Oh, well, the colleges will have to shut down. These very same colleges that, and to Nick's credit, I didn't even think about this, these very same colleges that are complete. I don't know of another organization that is more left, Democrat, liberal than colleges. I don't know, unless it's just a straight LGBTQ organization, or I don't know if they did stats of the percentage of college teachers and college professors that are liberal. And it's not even, it's mind-boggling when you actually look at it. I forget the exact numbers, but quick Google search. It's mind-boggling when you look at it. And now he's prioritizing their business over American lives. The business of the corporations, the colleges, over the business of the American families. That's what he's doing. And he said it with such, like, it's like he didn't even have any empathy or sympathy. But it's almost like it's hard for me to think that he doesn't understand this, but perhaps he just doesn't care. He's showing us that he does not care what we want him to do, even from the Epstein files, when he's telling us you're not MAGA. If you still want the Epstein files, bro, you ran on that. Your entire team was pushing for that, saying to release the files. We're going to be the most transparent presidential team that you've ever. It's all BS. Donald Trump is going out sad. He's going out sad. And for a lot of us, look, I voted for Trump. But I'm not a fan of Trump. I'm not a fanatical person that roots for Donald Trump like a sports team. Donald Trump is supposed to be used. We're supposed to use politicians in order to get the things done that we, the people, want. Donald Trump was supposed to be a tool, and he's not a tool that's performing well. He's not performing for the people that voted for him, the people that got excited about the policies that he was going to push, him trying to drain the swamp, him going against the establishment. He gets in office and he's just another neocon. He's doing the bidding of the neocons. He might as well, I mean, I guess, is he better than Nikki Haley, compared to what Nikki Haley would probably be allowing? Yes. But when it comes down to it, is he, I mean, that's better than Nikki Haley when it comes to, let's say, war and issues in the Middle East and allowing Israel to do any and everything that they want to do. Perhaps Donald Trump's giving more pushback, but are we getting any different of a result? Is the result any different than if Nikki Haley was signing bombs as the president, signing bombs that Israel can use to commit or to continue the genocide against the people of Gaza, the Palestinians? I don't know. Now, that's more talking about the extremism of Nikki Haley, but the fact that we're even comparing it to what Donald Trump's doing says it all. Donald Trump has failed. He's failed us. He's not only, it's almost the worst type of failure, because if he was actually trying to do the things that he was saying that he was going to do, if he was trying to actually put America first and he just couldn't get the job done because of pushback, because of different challenges, that would be one thing. But the fact that he's not even trying to do it, he's a completely different person. This is not the person that I believed I was voting for. Now, Nick, got to give credit where credit's due. Nick said that he saw this all along. I didn't see this. Perhaps I just wasn't paying attention. Perhaps it's because I was, more so rooting for RFK Jr. And then when Trump got in office, or when RFK Jr. stepped out, I ended up going with Trump. I don't know what I missed, but Nick clearly saw something that the majority of us did not see, at least the people who voted for Trump. This is bad. And the worst thing that we can do is be complicit in it and not stand up and speak out against it. The worst thing that people can do is do what the Democrats typically do, which is, hey, we can't criticize him while he's in office. We just have to act like, he's good. We just have to act like Joe Biden's cognitively there, that he's making decisions, that he's not just laying in his bed unaware of everything that's going on. I'm glad that people are stepping up and challenging Trump. He hasn't been in office for a year, and there's people that were some of his most staunch supporters that are pushing back against him. Whether it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, I don't think was ever one of his biggest supporters. Whether it's Marjorie Taylor Greene or whether it's any of the influencers, podcasters, right? The Pod Bros, the Dave Smiths, the Candace Owens, the Theo Vons, Joe Rogan, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, the people that perhaps made the difference in this election the most, especially because a lot of the people that I just mentioned, they have the ears of a lot of the independents, a lot of the more moderate people that weren't decided on who they were going to vote for. Them giving Donald Trump the nod made a huge difference. And these are the people that are now calling him out, because it's not calling him out. It's not about him. It's about the actual policies. It's not criticizing the player. It's criticizing your play. It's not criticizing the person. It's criticizing the player. All right. If I'm critiquing you and saying that you did bad on a play, all right, don't take it personal, or don't take it. I'm not saying you're a bad person, but you're doing bad. You're performing bad. Donald Trump's performance is bad. It's bad. Whenever, and if you ask Ben Shapiro, if you ask Randy Fine, if you ask Lindsey Graham, who says that, hey, I'm not worried about the Republican Party. We're killing all the right people. We're cutting your taxes. When you're making people like Lindsey Graham proud and excited about the Republican Party, perhaps that's when the alarm should go off. It's like, where is my moral compass here? When you're making the people proud who are promoting genocide and telling us why we should continue to support Israel as they continue to violate peace treaties, ceasefires, and continue to push forward with this genocidal plan of them creating this greater Israel, perhaps that should be the alarm that goes off. Perhaps now we should be really considering, wow, this clean break memo, like, oh, I see, they just use this. Perhaps we should be asking the questions that Charlie Kirk was asking. Was there a stand down order? All these different things. Perhaps Donald Trump should be the one asking these questions the most and providing us with some insight. So therefore we can understand maybe some of the moves that he's making, but he can't and he won't, because he knows deep down that he is violating his principles and does not care. Nick mentioned that he said it's just business. Think about different times in your life where somebody has told you that it's just business. Think about those times. It's just business. What does that mean? Why would somebody think about your favorite TV show or whatever else? When somebody says it's just business, they're pretty much saying, hey, I know I violated my principles, morals, and values. I know that I violated what I told you I was going to do. I know that I'm not being a good person. I know that I'm not being a good friend, but hey, it's just business. Donald Trump is well aware of what he's doing. He just does not care. He's making excuses for any and everybody while, like Nick said, Americans continue to get the short end of the stick. So what that it takes maybe some time to teach somebody a new skill. The story that Nick told as far as with the workers when they were fired or something happened with ICE, that there were a bunch of Americans now anxious to fill those jobs. People want to work. And if Donald Trump thinks that people don't want to work, then why he should have had that energy earlier when he was running for president, not just now. That's what the energy should be. Or should have been, I should say. Donald Trump saying that we don't have the talent. What are you talking about? We don't have the talent. The talent to do what? To work at a factory, to learn a skill. So now we're not intelligent enough to learn skills. He's made excuse after excuse, whether it was in agriculture, when he did the carve outs to please the farmers, right? Oh, we don't want to teach any Americans this stuff. And of course, it doesn't help when you got Jasmine Crockett running around talking about we not picking no cotton. We done picking cotton. Shut up. Americans are not above or below any work. There's people that will gladly work hard on a farm, doing whatever it is, and learn about agriculture, perhaps open the door for more Americans to get involved in agriculture so we don't have people like Bill Gates buying up all our farmland. Maybe we can compete with the Bill Gates. Maybe we compete with all these people that want to control our food sources. So when Donald Trump's doing the carve-outs to make sure that the farmers have their workers so they don't have to teach anybody else, teach some Americans how to do it. What is that doing? You're just kicking the can down the road. If we continue to make decisions based on the logic that Donald Trump is making decisions, what will America look like in 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years? Will it be something that we could say that Donald Trump made America great again? Donald Trump, based on MAGA and what Donald Trump would describe as MAGA, at least maybe 4 years ago, 8 years ago. Based on those things, you'd have to say that Donald Trump is one of the worst presidents. Based on holding himself to his standards, I'm saying. The things that he said represent America first. You would have to say that he failed. There was a video that came out about Richard Nixon. Or Richard Nixon was speaking on Israel, and he was saying you have to, pretty biblical, right? You can't serve two masters. He was saying that in order to put America first, Perhaps that means not having a special relationship with Israel. Perhaps that means having a good relationship with countries throughout that region and giving up the special relationship with Israel, regardless of how Israel feels, because Israel's not America. But if you go to Donald Trump's logic, and let's say that this plays out and we continue to say, you know what, we're going to just do what's best for the owners, the billionaires, the elite, the ones that pay people, right? If we continue to prioritize them and not the American people, then we'll just end up being a country of Americans continuing to not have kids, not have families, not being able to make a living. The new poverty class will be Americans, right? It'll just be Americans, poverty, Americans. Americans that otherwise would have been able to have decent lives. I heard Tucker Carlson say in a video we played on our live earlier today, where he said it should be a case in America where decent people can live happy lives and earn a living. And it was him and Ben Shapiro going back and forth. And maybe I'll include that video here, but it was him and Ben Shapiro going back and forth. And Ben Shapiro said, do you think that the government should step in and make sure that these driverless trucks, that instead of having truck drivers, that the government should step in and make it so the Department of Transportation can't have driverless trucks? And Tucker said, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Who is Trump aligning with, and why is he aligning with them? What changed when it came to Trump? Was this just all marketing? Was this just all the art of the deal? Trump just being a tremendous salesperson? It's hard to tell. And I'm being nice when I say it's hard to tell, because based on actions, it's probably pretty easy to tell. Trump was just talking. He didn't believe in anything that he was saying, or at least he doesn't have the courage all of a sudden to stand on it. I don't know if they wore him out with all these lawsuits or what promises he made to maybe get out of certain positions that he was in. I don't know what deals he made, but clearly the prioritized deal, the one that's most important for him, is the one that compromises and is detrimental to Americans while prioritizing all of the people that Donald Trump made it seem like when he was initially running and when he was recently running, that he would not prioritize over the American people. And Nick brings up a great point. If you think that Donald Trump couldn't do it, you think JD Vance is going to be the one to do it? That's a scary thing to think about. If Donald Trump couldn't make America great again, what do we think JD Vance is going to do? You think, like, do we think JD Vance, as good of a politician that I think JD Vance is, it works with Donald Trump? Donald Trump's the real person, the one that it's not politically correct, is not the smooth talker, smooth orator. JD Vance is the politician. So like I said, it works very well when you can have JD Vance as the vice president for Donald Trump. But having JD Vance as the president, I'm not sure that I'm believing in that. Matter of fact, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. Donald Trump, with everything that he has, his brand, who he is as a person, everything. Him being a cool, influential person. Now, JD Vance, Nick said he's a dork. When you think about it, does JD Vance inspire anybody? It's the same with Ron DeSantis. Is Ron DeSantis sitting down and corralling the team and inspiring anybody to do anything? I don't think so. This is what the Republicans fear. And this is why they want to silence Nick so much. Because regardless of how, it doesn't matter how you slice it. No matter how you slice it, if Nick Fuentes and JD Vance were having a conversation and they were exchanging ideas, the majority of Americans would align with Nick Fuentes, and the majority of Americans would just see Nick as a more charismatic character. They would be like, yo, I kind of like this guy. Said some things that probably should offend me, but I like this guy. Yo, at least he's willing to just stand on it unapologetically. That's what I like. Don't just, oh my God, Nick Fuentes said the N-word. People that do that, bro, do you think I'm stupid? You don't say, like, you don't think that that black people think that white people say the N-word when black people aren't around? Like, it's it's like, oh, he said the N-word. Like, okay, let's go attack him. Like, bro, I know y'all want us to crash out and be as emotional as possible, just like the Democratic Party, right? Y'all want us to be emotionally engaged in a lot of these decisions, right? So we won't even care about the policies. But sorry, it doesn't bother me. Sorry, liberals. It doesn't bother me as much as you want it to. Sorry, conservatives. Sorry, neocons. I'm not as offended as you want me to be. You want me to be offended, so therefore we can frontline your battle and stand beside you when you use the term anti-Semitic. And because anti-Semitic holds a lot more weight when you can also say racist and imply that it's racist against black people, we know what y'all are doing. We know what y'all are doing. Oh, he's racist, he's misogynist, so you turn the women off, right? Get the women on your side as well. Get the black people, get the women, get everybody who cares about them, and then throw the anti-Semitic in there. Throw it in there last, right? Even though that's the one that you prioritize the most. You don't care that he said the N-word. You don't care that he's misogynist. Like, you care that he's a threat to Israel having the influence and to Jewish donors having the influence, like a Miriam Adelson. You're scared that that threat and AIPAC being exposed, you're scared that that influence is no longer going to be there and what that could potentially mean. You're scared that the younger generation may not look at Israel the way that the boomers looked at Israel. And that could be very dangerous, because what if they decide, we just want to have, like Richard Nixon said, we want to have good relationships with everybody. We don't need to have a special relationship with Israel. Then I guess it goes back to that Ben Shapiro logic. Hey, if you can't handle it over here, if you can't compete on your own, then maybe you should find somewhere else to live. Isn't that what Ben Shapiro told Americans about our American government when we're expecting the American government to help Americans? The nerve, the audacity of baby Ben. Trump going out bad. It's not even a full year and Trump is just disappointing everybody. Disappointing everybody. And I wrote in my notes about the whole Stalin thing. And I'm glad Nick clarified that even though this is, a horrible thing, that, he had horrible methods. One thing to point out is the importance of factories and establishing factories, and the fact that these politicians were going out like a Stalin or whoever else he was saying. I'm not too familiar with it, so I'm just going on Nick's word. We're going out and establishing factories, building factories. That's what should be happening. Let those people with H-1B visas who are so skilled in these jobs that Trump thinks that Americans don't have the talent to do, since they're so talented and skilled, let them teach Americans how to do it. That's the deal. You don't have to come here. You don't have to come to America. So if you're going to come and work for an American company, all right, this is going to be your job now. And the people that are the best teachers, since Americans have no talent based on Trump, the teachers that are going to be the most effective in teaching the skills to the Americans, then maybe there's a special carve out for them, right? Maybe Trump should start there. Special carve out business wise for the best teachers, the ones that can get the most amount of Americans up to speed in doing the jobs that they've been allowed to do. I don't know what's going to happen with Trump. How are y'all feeling about Trump? Leave that in the comments. How are y'all feeling about Trump? I just find myself over and over being disappointed, and it's not even disappointing in Trump at this point. I'm disappointed in myself. The nerve of me. What did I miss? Like, I'm a big person that I like to try to connect dots and make sense of this. Why did I not think that Miriam Adelson giving Trump $100 million would be significant in the decisions that he was making when he became president? Why didn't I think of that? Goes back to one of our favorite shows, right? The Wire. Follow the money. Why didn't I follow the money? I don't know. Why didn't I pay closer attention? I don't know. And perhaps a lot of it, as I'm thinking in my mind, I didn't vote for Trump. This is my first time voting for Trump, and I actually didn't vote in the previous 2 elections. I just didn't vote for a lot of the reasons that Nick decided to not vote. But that's when I was coming over from the Democratic Party, and I was just fed up. I'm like, you know what? I'm not voting. I'm not continuing to vote for them. Why? Because I'm black. And you're growing up in America, you got to vote Democrat. Yeah, I'll pass. I had family members reaching out to me like, please vote, like crying almost, acting as if, when they put that patch, that sticker on their chest of I just voted, as if they're a freedom fighter. Like now they get their Frederick Douglass stamp. Like, no, you're not. Our ancestors did not simply die for us to have the right to vote. Like people were telling me, no, our ancestors died for our vote to mean something, for our vote to count. And sometimes for our vote to count, you got to take a step back and say, look, I'll not vote. Since you're not valuing my vote, I'll not vote. And then we'll see how much you value my vote on the next time when you lose. So, JD Vance, you're in a tough position. You're in a tough position. You got all that money behind you. You got the movie deal. You got the book deal. You got all that stuff. And now you're sitting back in a position. And JD Vance knows. I think deep down, JD Vance knows. And I don't think that JD Vance agrees with everything that Donald Trump is doing. Matter of fact, I think JD Vance is actually probably pissed off at Donald Trump capitulating to Israel and Israel first Zionist policies. I think JD Vance would actually push back more than Donald Trump. It would not be led as much as Donald Trump, but who knows until you get into that seat, until you get into that position. Perhaps people just have too much on Donald Trump. Perhaps he's so flawed, things that he done in the past, I don't know. Perhaps things have caught up to him. I don't know what it is, but I just sit back and I question it. But one thing that I do not question is the fact that Donald Trump is going out bad and he's not putting Americans first, period. All right, let me get out of here before I'm just talking to talk. I'm over here looking at the screen. Some video just came up of Donald Trump signing something and it's Sharpie. Why don't you sign something for Americans, Trump? Instead of doing all the fake stuff, this must be an old video. They got the Gulf of America up there. Instead of doing all the goofy stuff, the Gulf of America, how about you actually put Americans first? How about that? Call it the Gulf of Mexico. Call it the Gulf of whatever else you want to call it, the Gulf of Trump. But just put Americans first. I'll leave it there. Y'all know what it is. I appreciate y'all. Continue to like. I appreciate y'all. One more time. I got to say it while I'm looking in the camera. Like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. Don't let the algorithm control what you're looking at. All right. We control the algorithm. Turn your notifications on. And as always, let me know how we're doing. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Let me know where my bias is maybe playing into creating some blind spots here and there. Let me know. Give me some feedback. I want as much feedback as possible. I do not want to be right. I want to have a clear understanding of what's going on. All right. I don't care right, wrong, no, I want to have a clear understanding. I want the majority of us to have a clear understanding and have a perspective that we can unite on as pushing America first. On that note, I'll see y'all on the next one.
It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it. Bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Wash, DC. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP. Hillbilly, Elegy, fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family.
And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM for that. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that.
I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am.